Welcome to the Top 10 Gardener with Master Gardener Ken Lain. Gardening can be challenging, but with Ken's tips, tricks, and top 10 advice, you'll reap huge rewards. Now, welcome your garden host, Ken Lain.
And welcome to this week's edition of The Mountain Gardener. Your host, Ken Lain, here every week talking about the landscapes of northern Arizona. We are, autumn I think is next week. Is that right? Or gosh, is it already there? We're right here. It feels like there's a crispness in the air. And so I was watching the eclipse earlier, and it was just nippy outside. It was kind of just feels like autumn. Now, the mountains of Arizona won't stay this way. It's going to go back to summer. We're famous. Renowned for our Indian summers. And so it gets cool and then it goes right back to warm. So it'll be 70 this week and 88 next week. So this is we'll do this throughout till the end of the year, which is kind of beautiful. That's why we live in such a mild 4-season climate. Your plants are going crazy right now. And so my hydrangeas are just glorious. Oh my goodness. The heat, they kind of struggle. They went, I'll bloom a little bit for you, but not too much. I'm not going to put that much energy into it. But now I think it's put on 20 blossoms. I mean, just right now, these are perennial hydrangeas. There are some that bloom exceptionally well here in the mountains of Arizona, and they just need some shaded areas. That's the secret with hydrangeas. Other parts of the country, full sun. Here, they struggle with that dry, bright sun. Is just too much. Put them in a little bit of shade. So mine's on the northeast side. It loves growing there and blooms like crazy. A beautiful, just blue hydrangea. I just had some hydrangeas come in, some beautiful fall hydrangeas, white pinnacles coming up. These beautiful white flowers that will just bloom for the next 2 months. They're glorious. Nothing's like a hydrangea out in the garden. I guess roses, but roses look best in the summer and the spring. So it just there's a season for everything. My vines are going nuts. I cannot keep them in check. Akebias, honeysuckles. I mean, as long as they're tidy and they keep in check, that's fine. But when they start to take over and grow into other plants, going, okay, guy, come on. You got to know, you got to have some boundaries, man, some boundaries. And so I've been whacking on, cutting back on things, and it is perfectly fine. It is encouraged to cut back on plants. Don't let them, they like a haircut. They feel better about themselves. They feel more beautiful, more shapely when you give them a good haircut. And so plants are kind of like people. They just feel better when you kind of keep them, tidy, clean, neat haircut. And so I've been cutting those vines back. I've been replacing quite a few things. So some of my geraniums, they just were, they bloomed and now they're out of bloom. I'm coming to the end of the season. Geraniums are a true annual. That is, it loves growing when it's tropical, when it's sunny, when it's warm out, but when it's cool, they're not going to make it. And so by the end of October, they're out of here. So I'm trying to pull some of these things out. Some of my Martha Washingtons are gone. Some of the beautiful sunflowers, had some unbelievable sunflowers. They're glorious. They were in full bloom, but they just gotten so big and so leggy. By the time I cleaned and shaped them up, I went, you know what? I live in America, the greatest country that's ever existed. You're out of here. I'm going to put some nice pansies and violas, ornamental kales. There's a whole series of plants that if I can get those in now and they get rooted and filled, and they will give me continual color, many of them right through the entire winter season. I mean, they'll be glorious until next June. And so it's all about getting them in the ground or in the container I've got lots of pots. And so I'm in the ground or in pots or in raised beds, get them in so they get rooted and plumped and full. So I've got easily 6 weeks of just solid, just fast growing, fast rooting season left, plenty of time left, but it's strategy to get some of the things I know are going to fade, put the things that I know will look great. As if I can just get them in and full and rooted, they'll be glorious and give me more enjoyment for more months through winter. It's unique. It's a unique area. This part of this Lower part of the Rocky Mountains is high elevation of Arizona. It's mild, but it's still 4 seasons. So you've got the shoulders are much longer of the growing season here as compared to, let's say, a Denver or a Midwest, Chicago, where it's just when it's over, that's it. Now the ground is freezing. Well, that doesn't do that here. We don't have freezing ground. It's just beautiful all the time. One thing I am adjusting. So my irrigation, I did cut back this week. And what I did is I was watering my container gardens every day in the morning. Well, I went back, they seem to be pretty happy. I'm going to cut them back to every other day. And so I went to every other day for my container plants. The trees and shrubs were at once every week. Well, you know what? I think I could go once every 8 days. I didn't play with the time, how long they are running. They're running the same amount of time they are. I mean, year round. I never adjust how long the irrigation goes for. Once you find how long irrigation needs to run to get that water penetrating through the entire root zone, you don't play with that. The only adjustment I'm playing with is how frequently. How many days can I go in between each water cycle? So I've got 8 different cycles. I've got 4 in the front yard, 4 in the backyard. So the containers are on their own irrigation valve. The thyme lawn is on its own irrigation valve. The trees in the front yard are on their own irrigation valve. And the same for the back. And so I'm trying to break up, trees and shrubs are big, deep rooted plants. Once you water them really well, they can go for days and days and days before they need additional water, no matter how hot it gets. Flowers, they're typically shorter. A tree can have a 3-foot depth root structure. Well, for 3 foot of soil to dry out it takes a long time. For flowers, it's typically about a foot. So you get some echinaceas or gaillardias or whatever it happens to be, some salvias. They're going to be probably a foot to 18 inches worth of roots. Well, it takes a long time for a foot of soil to dry out completely. And so there I was watering those about every 5 days. Now I'm at every 6. I just added a day in between the cycles, and I'll monitor. And I'll see if I can cheat it and go a little bit farther. It's cool this week. But I just know it's going to warm back up. So I'm kind of playing it conservatively. I'm going to adjust it back a little bit and then monitor. And if I need to, I can manually run it if I needed to. And so play with that. Now, some of you are going, oh, well, Ken just gave me permission to cut off all my irrigation. It's cool now. No, plants are actively growing and rooting through October. So you've got at least a month to a month and a half of growing, active rooting system. Plants are actively rooting right now. So yes, the fall is coming or autumn is coming. Plants are going to start showing some colors, not quite there yet, but in the next couple of weeks, you'll start to see certain, the sumacs will start turning color. It'll be that leading edge. That's your cue. You can start to cut back, but it's really that hard frost. The hard frost or freezes. That's what you want to watch. And that happens usually the end of October, first part of November, especially for you folks that have a battery operated timer coming off the hose bib off the house. That will freeze if you're not careful. So protect that because it's a $100 valve, $100 clock. You don't want to lose that. For those of us that have our valves in the ground, we are much more insulated. I mean, it will be January, February before the ground freezes to potentially damage those valves in the ground. So if that even happens, that's only if you hire folks, the Groom Creeks, maybe the Ash Forks and Williams, Flagstaff, you folks, a higher elevation. Yeah, you might freeze some ground, but those of us in this 5,000 foot level, Prescott Valley, Prescott, surprisingly, Camp Verde and Cottonwood, you can get pretty cold. That cold air spills down and settles on you. So we aren't going to see frozen ground. It's just so we can protect those. For me, I get one of those large Ziploc baggies. I put some household insulation in it. I just stuff it in there and I just set it on top of my valves in the ground. And then I put my lid on top of that. And I've never had a valve freeze on me ever. So I kind of keep them on year round. but don't turn that system off too soon. That's a big mistake. Keep watering, but cut it back a little bit. I think you'll have a healthier plant. Got a lot in store for you. Lisa Waterslane coming in with your garden questions right after this.
Whether you're freshening up an existing landscape or starting with a blank slate, the Waters In-Store Garden Consultation is right for anyone.
If you don't know where to start, Waters' personal shopper service allows you to book one-on-one time with an expert without the crowds.
It's easy by phone or through our website. No lines, no waiting.
Purchase a $250 gift card from Waters, and it comes with one-on-one private gardener time.
You're going to love your yard again.
Waters Garden Center in Prescott or watersgardencenter.com.
You're listening to Garden Master Ken Lain, owner of Waters Garden Center in Prescott. Join his daily podcast for timely garden advice seasonally right for the gardens. Ken can be found throughout the week at Waters Garden Center in Prescott or through his website at top10gardener.com.